Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
You never liked the Canadians. You actually hated them.
Well, I liked them before I knew you.
Yes, but then you went through a stage where like you didn't like the Canadians at all.
I hated them because they traded my favorite player and it broke my heart. It did. I was a young kid at the time.
Can you tell everybody who your favorite player was?
My favorite player was Rick Wamsley.
Yeah. So after they traded Rick Wamsley,
yes,
a better than average goaltender,
which by the way was not a good trade for the Canadians because they were left with Richard Sevigny. So like, another bad trade the Canadians made.
But But like Rick Wamsley is like a footnote in the history of the Habs. He's like a nothing. That's the reason to stop following the team. I guess when you're a kid and they trade your favorite player, you say screw that.
That was my reason.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Hello?
Josh?
Skippy!
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
It's super rare that we start the show with me calling you.
Yeah, you never call.
I think in 103 episodes before this, it's happened like twice.
Maybe only, yeah.
Maybe once.
2 or 3 times. Very few times. Yeah. But I'm glad to hear your voice.
You are?
Yes. We need to talk. We haven't spoken in a while, and there's a lot we need to catch up on. This past week, you've been MIA. Like, I texted you a few times. I didn't get any responses. And I think I know the reason. You were so upset about England losing that, like, I was afraid. Like, I was worried about you. Should I call him? Should I just go over to his house? I know we're like 5 hours away from each other, but still.
I really wasn't as upset as I thought I would be.
Okay.
It's interesting because so we'll just get into the World Cup. The final was today, and
World Cup soccer.
I think if they would have lost in the penalty kicks, the fact that they beat Colombia in the penalty kicks was like redemption. That was like anything that happened after that, it was going to be okay.
But they should have beaten Colombia.
They should have, but there's no guarantees.
No, I know, but I mean,
in anything,
they're supposed to beat Colombia.
Yeah, Colombia's still a good team, but yes, you're right. But like, no, but I'm saying the fact that they won in the penalty kicks, that was like the feel good moment. Like anything that they do after that, it was like, it was going to be okay. Like obviously they weren't going to win the whole thing. It would have been great if they would have made it to the final game. But like when they lost to Croatia and they should have won, they could have, I don't say they should have won. They could have won. Right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you get the lead at the beginning of the game the way they did. But like they lost the game and I was like, oh God, like I felt bad and I was sad about it. But like I felt hopeful because the England team is loaded. I think it's like one of the youngest teams at the World Cup. I think maybe only France has a lower average age. Mm-hmm. So, like, the base of the England team are all 23, 24, 25 years old. Everybody in that starting lineup is like 23 or 25 years old, other than Ashley Young. He's the only guy that was in his 30s. So, like, there's hope. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They did this much with this team. Now let's go the next step at the next tournament.
Okay. Well, they're going to have to get through France next time.
Well, look, France is obviously going to be a power moving forward for the next however many years. The same thing could be said about France. Their whole team is super young, right? All those guys that you saw playing today, winning the World Cup. Antoine Griezmann, he's in his 20s. Mbappe's 19, for crying out loud. Kante, Pogba, like these guys are young, They're going to be a force to be reckoned with for a while, But, you asked me last week, or maybe you asked me 2 episodes ago, like, where does like my England fandom rank among like other sports and how badly did I want them to win? Does it compare to hockey? Does it compare to Duke? Does the Habs, the Eagles, like where does it rank, And I couldn't give you an answer. And I still can't, but I want to tell you something that happened in my house this week. So in the eyes of my family, something happened this week that was eye-opening because after the game, it was hours after the game, And we sat down to watch something on TV. My daughter sat down next to me. And my daughter doesn't know anything about sports. She knows nothing, right?
Yeah.
And she sat and she just knows that I've been watching the World Cup and I'm following England. And I mean, she knows. And she sat down next to me and she said to me, and she's never said this for anything sports-wise. She's like, I'm sorry that your team lost.
That's so nice.
It was so nice of her, you know? But like, it just goes to show, like, she knew how important it was to me, you know? So maybe England winning is right up there, right? Because she never said that to me when Duke didn't win the championship or when the Canadians didn't win a playoff game, you know? So, anyways, that's the World Cup report.
In her defense, I don't think the Canadians have been in the playoffs since she's been alive.
No, that's not true.
It's almost true.
Are you kidding? They made it to the conference finals like a few years ago.
I'm exaggerating, but like they've never
know.
made it to the finals since she's been alive.
No, are you kidding? They haven't made it to the finals since '93.
Right. Anyway, what I was surprised by, and maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, at work we have TVs all over our office, and so of course all the games are on during the day, and so we would watch all the games. But we've been watching all the games since, for the last month. And, sometimes we don't usually have the volume up during the game. So you can see what's going on, but you can't hear because otherwise it'd be too distracting to work. So if you don't happen to be looking at the screen when there's a goal, you won't even know.
Right.
So anyway, this only happened during the last England game. Of all the games that have been on in the last month and all the games that we've all watched, this only happened during the last England game. Anytime there was a goal scored in that game, you could hear very clearly the entire office, the entire department, either cheering when it was England that scored or like being upset when it was the other team.
Oh, so there was a big England push at your office.
And I had no idea how many England supporters I actually worked with until that day.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. It really is.
Well, I think a lot of them have come out of the woodwork, as they progressed, right?
So I guess that's what it was, but that's something that I was surprised.
That's cool. Well, look, I'm gonna miss the World Cup. I'm sad it's over. It was great. It was a great 4 weeks of watching. It was drama for 4 weeks, excitement. It's really fun. The World Cup was fun. I wish it was in a better time zone. I wish the games weren't on during the day like they were all the time.
Well, it will be in 2026.
Oh, yeah, 2026, it's going to be in the Middle East.
No. It's going to be in Canada, United States, and Mexico.
Yeah, I'm saying 2022, it's going to be in the Middle East. Yeah, 2026, we're going to be in our time zone.
Yeah, but then you won't get to watch it while you're working.
No, that's true.
So I have a question for you. It's more of a comment / opinion than a question, but you can tell me that I'm wrong. I know that in 2 years from now, it's the Euro, which is only European teams.
Yeah.
Is there anyone out there who believes that the Euro is actually a better tournament than the World Cup? Because a lot of teams get into the World Cup just because they're the best team in their region. But if they had to play against some of the European teams that didn't make it, like Italy, for example, I think the Euro might actually be a better tournament.
The Euro is a better tournament because, like you said, the lower teams are way better than Panama. And I don't want to diss those teams like the South Korea, Japan. There's teams that make it that are making it because they want to take, like you said, they want to take teams from every region. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, Italy, who didn't make it, is better than Panama. There's no question.
So the only thing is Brazil will not be in the Euro, and they're a team that could compete with those.
Look, it's fun to watch the African teams. Nigeria this year was good, and they're good. And Senegal had a great team this year. They're fun to watch. They're good, but they never make a dent really at the World Cup. Mm-hmm. And the South American teams do, right? Brazil goes far, Argentina goes far, Uruguay is always powerful, and then sometimes you have Chile in there who's really good. Colombia has been good the last 2 World Cups, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's great, but overall. Yes, it's the European teams are better, and you saw the Final Four was all European teams, right?
How about the Elite Eight? I think 6 of them were European.
Yeah, it was right because it was. You're right. I mean, most of the time it is better. Not that the caliber is any better because the European teams tend to have a similar style, right? Whereas the South American teams play with a lot more flair. It's a lot more an offensive game, right? Same thing with the African nations. So that makes for a clash of styles, which is great to watch. But yeah, overall, yeah, it's a better tournament. I love the Euro too. Can't wait for it.
Okay. So are we done with soccer?
Oh yeah, that's it. We're done with soccer now till I don't know when.
Okay. I just have a couple of very small things that I wanted to chat about.
Please go ahead.
Major League Baseball.
Did you see, and again, this all happened since the last time we spoke, the Cleveland Indians, I don't know if you saw this, they were winning a game, I believe it was 4-0 in the ninth inning. Did you hear about this?
Go ahead, maybe.
So they were winning a game 4-0 in the ninth inning. Trevor Bauer, who, by the way, I have on my fantasy team, had pitched 8 scoreless innings, and they took him out, and they brought in a reliever in the ninth inning, which, by the way, annoyed me because that reliever proceeded to blow the game.
Right.
A 4-0 lead, you think someone can hang on to that. But no, what happens? He gives up 4 runs. So I think it was Cincinnati that they were playing, and they tie up the game. And then the bases were still loaded.
Oh, God.
And then they take him out of the game. But now, you know, it's too little too late. The bases are loaded. I believe Joey Votto was the batter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe Joey Votto proceeded to hit a bases clearing double.
Right, okay.
So now Cincinnati ends up winning the game 7-4. But that's not even the point of my story.
I know where you're going with this, yeah.
I don't know if you heard that they brought in the second reliever in the ninth inning. I think his initials are OT. So they brought in a reliever, but the reliever they brought in is not the reliever that Terry Francona wanted to bring into the game. He had asked, I think, for OP. And the bullpen coach heard OT and sent out OT. And then OT proceeds to give up a bases clearing double to Joey Votto. Now, OP may not have got Joey Votto out either. Who knows? But I mean, how do you bring in the wrong pitcher? How do you not? I don't understand. This is Major League Baseball here.
That's nuts. I mean, we've heard all kinds of stuff this season, you know, with weird things with managers. Sometimes I don't necessarily believe it all, but it is strange.
So, and by the way, this is another point I want to make about that. You know how when we talk about Cy Young winners, I tell you that I never look at a pitcher's won-loss record. And here is a perfect example of why. Trevor Bauer did not get the win in this game. He pitched 8 scoreless innings. He pitched really well. I think he struck out 10 guys or more, which in this day and age to last for 8 innings is a big deal. And he didn't get the win in that game. So now when you look back at his stats at the end of the season, I don't know, he's going to end up with whatever. Let's say he ends up with 15 wins. Yeah. There's another one he could have had.
Look, won-loss it's an old stat.
It's very deceiving.
It's for the old timers like us, maybe, or older than us. New enlightened fans really don't like the win stat at all, and they don't even feel like it should be counted.
Yeah, why do you give a win to a pitcher? Why do you give a win to a quarterback?
Yeah,
a goalie is different.
Win to a quarterback is a whole other story. I can go on and on about that. Like, I don't think it's fair. He's the only one that has a won-loss record. That's like a made-up thing, you know.
A goalie in hockey, I can understand because usually the same goalie plays the entire game.
I know, but it's the same thing.
Even the goalie, like if you're on the Chicago Blackhawks when they're good, or the Pittsburgh Penguins when they're good, you're going to have a good won-loss record, you know, or the Nashville Predators. Carey Price could be the best goalie in the league. He has a terrible won-loss record because he plays on a terrible team. Now he had a bad season also this year. So
it's in hockey. It's a gauge of like how the team does when you're in nets. I guess if you want to compare it to other goalies, but like in baseball, it's a stat that really is become meaningless. You know,
the only team sport where they don't keep track, like you don't hear about, you know, LeBron James is 52-12 this year. You don't hear that.
No, you don't.
That's the only team sport where they don't give the wins and losses to an individual player. In hockey they do, in baseball they do, and in football they do. And I don't like it.
Last week we talked about I want to stick with baseball if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We talked about I said I didn't think anything's wrong with baseball, and you were you were saying, like there's ways that they could speed up the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking about like different rules over the last couple of weeks, the shifting and all this. So I'm sure you must have heard that Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe wrote this huge article about how everything that's wrong with baseball.
I didn't. I don't like him at all, by the way, but I want to hear this.
It's really opinionated, and it's very depressing, and it's very honest. He's saying the games are too long. Mm-hmm. The ratings are at their lowest. The like attendance and ratings on TV ratings are at their lowest since like 2003. Mm-hmm. He goes on to talk about the same stuff that we talked about, that the league is at its all-time low in hits, singles, strikeouts are at an all-time high, home runs. It's basically home runs, walks, or strikeouts every at bat.
Yeah.
And fans are not coming and not watching because games are boring, because the ball is never in play, right? Mm-hmm. So he really talked about how baseball's in trouble. It's kind of depressing, actually.
Well, it's interesting because every time I want to talk about baseball, you seem to not want to talk about baseball.
No,
so
but
even you don't like
it. I've started watching lately. And the other thing that he goes on to talk about, which is the standings and tanking, right? The notion of tanking, like, because Houston had so much success by losing like 4 years in a row with 100 losses and now becoming so good, teams are wanting to follow in that mold. Because when you look at the American League right now, like the Red Sox and the Yankees are so many games above 500. The Red Sox are like 38 games above 500, right?
Yeah.
It's like the won-loss records of the Red Sox, the Yankees, Cleveland, and Houston. Well, Cleveland has a normal record, but Houston are so high. And then you have teams with like Baltimore. They're playing 289 ball. Kansas City, 284. Chicago White Sox, like, there's some historically bad teams. So basically what's happening now, there's nothing in the middle. Right. There's teams that are so far ahead and there's teams that are so far behind. Like Baltimore's 40 games behind at the All-Star break.
However, the thing about tanking, that happens in the NBA and it also happens in the NHL. That's not exclusive to baseball.
Yeah. But it's much harder to do in baseball because the draft is like 60 million rounds, and the guys you draft first, they don't make it to your team for years. It's not like you can turn your team around like instantly, like you can by drafting one great player in the NBA or even in the NHL. Look what the draft did for the Oilers with Connor McDavid, right? I mean, all of a sudden they became good. And the same thing could be said for millions of teams in the NBA. You draft one good player, all of a sudden your team's changed, right? Baseball, it doesn't really work that way. But like the standings are really eye-opening right now because there's some really historically bad teams. Like Baltimore is just pathetic, Like I don't know what's going on. And I mean, the whole story with Manny Machado. They want to trade him, but
I know that's the worst kept secret on the planet.
He insists he wants to only play shortstop. I don't know where he's gonna. I'm not sure where he's gonna get traded to, because. But
the fact that the Yankees and Red Sox are both interested in getting Machado. Your team is already stacked.
I know.
What good? It's almost a negative impact if you add him, because then what? Then Xander Bogaerts isn't going to play, or Didi Gregorius isn't going to play. Like, I don't understand.
The Yankees definitely are not going to get him. I don't think they're going to. First of all, I don't think they're going to trade him in the AL East. But like, I saw a tweet from someone this week, Tim Kirchin or Buster Only maybe, saying like a few years ago when David Price got traded at the deadline, right? Mm-hmm. The Yankees were trying to get him. And at the time, the asking price for David Price was like Severino and Gleyber Torres.
Okay.
Right? One or both of those.
Right.
And the Yankees wisely said no. Can you imagine how the Yankees would be with David Price on their team and instead not having those two guys?
Right, for sure. They're much better
Severino
off now.
Is like possible Cy Young.
I think the Yankees got Gleyber Torres when they traded Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs. He was one of the players they got from the Cubs.
I think you're right. I mean, I say Gleyber Torres in that quote, that tweet, I might be wrong. It's just it's another top prospect.
Right, or Miguel Andujar, one of those guys.
Yeah. But like the Yankees are smart right now because they're hanging on to all their prospects,
right?
Because they realize how important it is.
But I mean, they don't need Machado, and the Red Sox don't need Machado.
Josh, the Red Sox are 68-30.
I know. They're on pace to win 112 games.
It's like I feel so bad for the Yankees because the Yankees are 62-33 and they're 4.5 games back.
And they're going to have to play a wild card game.
They're going to have to play a wild card game. I mean, look, it's obviously not over yet. They could catch the Yankees. They could catch the Red Sox. Anything could happen. But I mean, the loser of that division is like really getting screwed by having to play the wild card game.
They are. You're absolutely right.
And then I mean, Houston is there too. You know, like how good is
all the
Houston?
good teams are in the American League now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking back at our like predictions at the beginning of the year, and we were both in agreement: Yankees, Red Sox, Indians, Astros. Those teams were all going to be in the playoffs, right? And we disagreed on maybe who the wild card teams were going to be. I think I said the Angels. I don't know who you said.
Right, I don't remember.
Not even
I have
sure.
to go back and look.
I think you like Minnesota maybe, but like the wild card team honestly is inconsequential. Like when you really think about it. But in the National League, I was the one that told you, like, oh, doesn't it just pick itself? And boy, oh boy, like, I mean, I know the Cubs are in first right now, and the Dodgers are tied for first only as of today. But both of those teams haven't been very strong this year. The Brewers have been in first place most of the season, and so has Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And then the other team that we were both
looking at our picks right now. I think we had almost identical picks.
Yeah.
And we were not very good.
No. And then the one that we both agreed on was Washington, and I even said Bryce Harper was going to be MVP.
Yes.
And
especially in his free agent year.
I did tell you that the Phillies were worth looking at, like that they were maybe going to insert themselves into like the wild card race. But I certainly didn't see like Washington just kind of being so average, you know?
No, I know. And I mean, they're not out of it yet by any stretch. There's still time for them to turn it around.
Yeah. You were high on Milwaukee and they're doing well.
Yeah.
They could still win the division, Milwaukee. They could still, and they're a dangerous team. And my buddy Lorenzo Cain, they're talking about him for potential MVP.
Right, and my buddy Pablo Sandoval is having a decent year.
Yeah, he's not. I saw him. He made a great play the other night. Did you see at third base?
I didn't see. Actually, I did see that.
He tagged the base and
right.
It was really.
And actually, I think his dive when he dove and landed that registered on the Richter scale in San Fran.
Yeah, it's like a 1.
Because it shook the entire stadium.
It's like a 1 or 1.2.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because he's pretty big.
People are worried about. Yeah, it's true. So you texted me this week about do I want to watch the All-Star game?
And you totally dismissed it.
I was like, not really.
I mean, I'll probably watch the game because I do that every year. I mean, I'm not going to, make a special arrangement to watch it, but I'm sure wherever I am, it's going to be on.
First of all, have you seen the lineups for the National League and the American League? If the American League doesn't win, I'm going to be shocked.
Well, I haven't seen the lineups, but what I have noticed is there's a lot of guys who are injured who are supposed to be playing in the game but aren't.
Yeah, there'll be changes that are going to come, right? Like last minute, there'll be injury replacements. Right?
I mean, how does Blake Snell not make the All-Star team? That guy has not missed a start all season. He leads the American League in ERA, which is a big deal because all the good hitters are in the American League. And he didn't make the All-Star team. The only reason he's playing is because he's replacing somebody who got injured.
But don't they have to have someone on the team from every team?
Yes, and there is someone from Tampa Bay, and I don't think they wanted to put more than one player from Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So it's Wilson Ramos, the catcher, so he's injured, and then they picked another Tampa Bay Ray because they kind of had to.
No, but also there was a pitcher like that was named to the team that got injured that can't go, so they replaced him with Blake Snell.
Well, they're saying Trevor Bauer might bow out because he just pitched, so they might put someone else on, which is what happened last year.
Right, Trevor Bauer also wasn't named originally either. He's also replacing someone who got injured.
The roster is way too long at this point. But anyways, going back to the lineups. So I don't even have to tell you the National League lineup. It's fine. But what is amazing is that Nick Markakis and Matt Kemp are starting.
Those guys were great 10 years ago.
Yeah, and they're both having great years. Matt Kemp is he's a great again now.
Resurgence.
Bryce Harper's starting, even though he's hitting .212.
Well, A, it's in Washington, and B, that's voted by the fans.
Yeah, but but in the American League lineup, they have Jose Altuve, Jose Ramirez of the Indians, who has like a bajillion homers, right?
Yeah.
Manny Machado, Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, and JD Martinez. That's insane. And I didn't even tell you about Jose Abreu starting at first. But you see how good those guys are?
Jose Abreu should actually bat ninth in that order.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what the lineup's going to be, but oh my god, I mean, it's really it's pretty incredible. Although, like, what happens up happening in the All-Star game is like those guys are out after the fifth inning, so it's going to be up to like George Springer and Mitch Haniger are going to be like the key factors for the American League. You know, like the reserves come in, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if they're going to last 5 innings. They might only last 3.
Yeah. So I'm probably not going to watch, or I'll just watch it a little bit. But are you going to watch tomorrow night or the Home Run Derby?
Again, I'll try to watch. That's on Monday night. I have a tennis lesson, so I'm going to record it and maybe I'll watch it after. I don't know.
There's some interesting guys in here because it's not like your typical.
So did you notice in the Home Run Derby, of the 8 guys in it, 7 of them are from the National League?
And it makes no sense because all the best home run hitters, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, JD Martinez that I just named, like that's why the home run hitting contest is a bit sketchy because like guys just don't want to do it, right?
And I completely understand why they don't want to do it, because it seems that every year the guy who wins the Home Run Derby proceeds to go into a month-long slump right after the All-Star game.
Yeah. I'm interested to see Rhys Hoskins of the Phillies because he's having a great year. Schwarber's in it, which is always great. Like, it's always good to have fat guys in the home run hitting contest.
He has lost a little bit of weight.
Alex Bregman's in it from the Astros. I mean, I don't know what kind of year he's having. I didn't think he's this prolific power hitter.
He's not the prototypical home run hitter.
Bryce Harper, obviously, it's great that he's in there. And he's got to be the odds-on favorite to win it. Freddie Freeman, certainly from the Braves, having a great year.
Fantastic
All
year.
the power to him. Javier Baez of the Cubs. Like, how often do you have a second baseman in the home run hitting contest?
And
Not
Max
often.
Muncy is a guy I never heard of until like 3 weeks ago.
He has like 10 home runs in the last like month.
Yeah. He's hitting up a storm and he plays like every position, but I'd never heard of him until a month ago.
So, I mean, like, I'm going to watch it, but it's like, it's not like your... it's really not like the typical home run derby, that's for sure.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah. So, do you have any, like, I was thinking about when you asked me if I want to watch the All-Star game, like, do you have, like, some specific, like, All-Star game memories over the years that you come to mind when you think about the All-Star game?
Of course. I was at the All-Star game in Montreal when Dave Concepcion won the MVP. And I think I was at the game, and I think were there 4 Expos in the starting lineup? And then there was a 5th one who came into the game?
There was 5 Expos in the game in 1982.
Yeah, 4 of them started.
Raines, Carter, Dawson,
and Rogers.
Started the game, and Al Oliver came
into the game later. Yeah, that's my most amazing memory.
So aside from being in the championship series the season before in 81, the 82 All-Star game with the 5 players in the game and hosted in Montreal and the packed house and everything, it has to be like the kind of the high point of the history of baseball in the city.
That and or 1994, but then again 1994 never ended, so.
Yeah, well, we never got to see how it ended.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the All-Star game the year after that.
I don't remember it, actually.
Fred Lynn hit a grand slam.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
Of Atlee Hammaker.
I do remember that.
Bringing out the factoids now.
Yes, you really are.
I was a huge Angels fan, and Fred Lynn had just been traded to the Angels a couple of years before. So that was kind of cool. And then there's always a lot of great expo moments in the All-Star games. Gary Carter always had good All-Star games.
Applying the tag in one of the games. The throw came from the outfield. Don't remember who threw it, but Carter was the catcher, and he caught it, and he blocked the plate, and that saved the game.
And Tim Raines was always good in the All-Star game, I believe. He was the MVP maybe once. Moises Alou also. So it was always great, especially in the later years when we always didn't have a guy. It's just to have our one player there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some great moments in the home run derby. I still remember like Cal Ripken, Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr., you know, there were some great home run derbies when those guys were. I still remember Frank Thomas, and it was like I still never understood it. He's there. They interview him after he hits like 1 million home runs, and it's like before the final round, you know. And the interviewer asks him asking him like stupid questions, like you hate these interviews, right?
Yeah,
they're useless. And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go eat a Snickers."
Who said that?
Frank Thomas.
That's the best answer ever.
Yeah, because he had to like recharge before the finals, you know?
Did Snickers pay him for that?
I don't know. I never got to the end I never got to the bottom of it, the Snickers story, you know?
You know what? The home run derby, it's almost like the slam dunk contest. I don't need it really. If they stopped doing it, I wouldn't care.
But that's what I'm saying. It was fun back in the day. Like, I still remember, like, when Ken Griffey Jr. was in it for the first time and he's hitting, like, bomb after bomb, you know? There was this great feeling about the home run derby, but now, not so much.
You know what's more exciting to me is seeing, like, a great throw from right field where you throw the runner out at third base or something. Or two really good middle infielders turning a double play. That's actually more exciting to me, and you don't see that really that often anymore. And if they could somehow have like a skills competition, that would be more interesting than a home run derby.
We're more the baseball purists than like the average fan, you know. So that's what excites you. A guy making a great pivot at second base. Right?
Can we switch gears?
The National Basketball Association.
Yeah, I'm done with baseball.
Okay. I know we said we're not going to talk about the NBA.
Oh, NBA.
But there's a couple things that I want to talk about, and they involve the NBA.
Okay, go for it.
So the league is considering some rule changes.
Oh, I hadn't heard.
And I mean, I don't think they're going to happen in this coming season.
Are they going to make the Warriors play with 4 players instead of 5?
No, that wasn't one of them. Although they did get better by getting Boogie Cousins, but that's a whole other story for another episode. So one of the changes they're considering making is when they decide who the 16 playoff teams are, they're going to rank the entire league from 1 to 16, regardless of what division or conference you're in. And let me just say this for the record. Yeah. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I don't know why the NHL doesn't do it either.
It's a great idea, and it's never going to happen in the NBA. They can talk about it, but they won't do it. They're just not going to do it.
Well, they are talking about it.
I know, but I just don't feel that they're going to do it. There's too many teams that are kind of benefiting from it, and they're happy to be that 8th team, you know, and they don't want to have all the travel. The travel is a big thing, you know.
Well, you don't know that you're necessarily going to have to travel far. Like 1 versus 16 could end up being Golden State versus Sacramento, and there's no travel at all.
But it could also be Boston versus Denver.
Okay,
you know, and then all of a sudden Boston's penalized.
I'm stealing this from someone I saw on television this week, but I've mentioned this before. Travel. These players travel on these 5-star, you know, charter planes where they're catered to, you know, you want a snack, you want a drink, you get everything you want, you can recline in your seat. It's like their planes are more comfortable than my apartment.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me that it's so difficult to travel.
Mm-hmm. What's the other rule change?
The other rule change, I see you don't like that one.
Well, it's like I'm for it. I'm all for it, but I just don't know how realistic it is.
Okay. The other rule change is, and this is completely off the wall. I don't know if you heard about this. There's a person, a professor. He's a member of Mensa. His name is Dr. Nick Elam. Have you heard of him?
No.
So they're calling this the Elam ending, is what they're calling this potential rule change.
What is this?
You haven't heard about this?
No.
Okay, so this guy is suggesting that the way to end a basketball game, right now, the end of a basketball game, there's a lot of fouling, there's a lot of whistles, there's a lot of timeouts, and it drags on and on and on.
Yeah.
So what he is suggesting is this. When there's, I think, 3 minutes left in regulation time, whatever the score is, let's say one team is winning 90 to 80. So at that point, it's the first team that gets to 97 wins the game.
Why 97?
Because it's whoever the higher score is plus 7. So if it's 90 to 80, at that point, you turn off the clock. There's no more clock. And it's the first team to get to 97 at that point. So obviously
at 3 minutes. At 3 minutes.
But you turn off the clock. So you don't have a time limit to do it. So you don't need timeouts and you don't need to foul to stop the clock because there's no more clock. Mm-hmm. And of course, the team that has the lead has the advantage because they have the lead. But they've earned the lead because they've earned that 10-point lead throughout the game. Mm-hmm. And of course, if it's tied 90-90, then still it's the first team to
97.
get to 97. So that is his idea. Now, again, I don't know if this is it's certainly not going to happen this year.
No.
But it's an interesting idea. I really think
It's extremely interesting. I've never heard this before, so I'm just absorbing it right now.
Well, you'll Google it after, read about it, because maybe
It's
I'm not
extremely interesting. It certainly will make the game flow better in the final 3 minutes, right? All the timeouts. Although the timeouts are still going to call because they got to get to 97, right?
No, because you can't call a timeout. There's no clock. There's no need to call a timeout. The clock is turned off.
But you're going to want to call a timeout to strategize.
I mean, I guess, but it's not like...
Yeah, you're right.
You're not trying to...
It's not just to stop the clock.
Right.
And the fouls, although fouling in the NBA, it's less pronounced than it is in college, but they still do foul because that's their only resort, right? It's the only thing they can do.
Right. No, you can still foul, but if you foul, then you're giving the other team a free throw and you're letting them get to 97 quicker.
No. There's no point in this Elam ending. There's no point in fouling because the only reason why they foul is to stop the clock.
Right. I mean, it's similar to overtime in college football. There's no clock.
Yeah.
It's similar to that.
But, don't you think that teams are going to call timeouts and it's going to slow down the game in the last minute before the 3 minutes?
Absolutely. 100%.
Right?
100%.
Like right before it hits the 3 minutes, you're going to want to make sure you're up by as much as you can.
Exactly. Yes. But I mean, you're not going to foul if you want to make sure you're up by as much as you can, because fouling is going to hurt you.
You're going to have buzzer beaters at 3 minutes, people launching shots.
You might, yes, absolutely. So anyway, I don't know how it would work. Like, would the clock stop exactly at 3 minutes, or what happens if the clock is still running?
They have to pick time. They have to pick a number.
No, right? I know, but I mean, in the NFL, if the quarterback releases the ball before the clock hits 0, the play continues. So if you're in the middle of a play and it goes to 3 and then 2:59 and 2:58, would they let them continue to finish the play? I don't know.
It would be the ball. It would be. I think it would be the ball has to be out of your hands when the clock hits the 3 minutes.
So anyway, it's just an interesting idea. I don't know if it's going to happen, but
I'm not opposed to it. But it's extremely progressive. It's like it's out there.
I'm out there, Jerry, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Right. It's not the NBA didn't come up with this. Some guy came up with it.
Yeah, but like, does it have traction, or like NBA GMs liking it?
I don't even know what the reaction has been.
You need like a GM like a Brian Burke in the NHL. Like he is always thinking outside the box, right? Possible rule changes, things you can do, right? Mm-hmm. And he's very influential. So like he'll convince other GMs about the merits of like no red line, for instance, like at the time, or whatever. He was the big proponent of the hybrid offside, the hybrid icing that they have now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's a GM out there, maybe, what's his name? The GM of the Rockets, Daryl Morey. He seems to be like pretty progressive, or maybe the Spurs.
I mean, look,
I don't know.
They all have to agree on it in the end if it's going to happen, right? So
no, but you need someone to champion this cause,
Yeah.
All right, so we weren't supposed to talk about NBA, but we did.
Right. Well, we didn't talk about players.
I want to talk about one thing about football.
Okay, go.
The National Football League.
NFL season starting, but we're not going to get into that. Did you see Terrell Owens says he's not going to go to his Hall of Fame induction?
Yeah, and they said they're not even going to mention his name.
Well, I mean, he did finally get elected to the Football Hall of Fame. Now he's not going to the ceremony.
Yeah, I don't understand why he wouldn't go.
It's stupid. It's honestly, look, you were on this show. We were on this podcast, and I told you that Terrell Owens definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. This is at the time before he was elected. Mm-hmm. I mean, his numbers speak for themselves. He's definitely there was no reason that he should not have been elected. The whole reason why he's 100% right. He's 100% right. They didn't vote for him because they didn't like him. Not about anything he did on the field.
Okay.
He's 100% right. But like, now is your chance to like get up there. Like, not showing up is like, it's just sickening. He wanted to be the center of attention when he was a player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now he still wants to be the center of attention when he's going to be like for the Hall of Fame, you know? Just go and get your stupid ugly jacket and go in the Hall of Fame. You know? The tan jacket. Just go get it, you know? It's like, it's sickening that how much he craves the spotlight. You know, you can't just leave anything alone.
I don't know.
Too bad.
I don't
So
get
that's
it.
my Terrell Owens rant.
Okay.
All right. We're going to close it up.
Before we close it up,
Yeah.
The National Hockey League.
I mean, I'm sure you heard, because you live in Montreal, that Marc Bergevin came out about a week or 10 days ago and said that he's trading Max Pacioretty.
Well, not exactly.
I read a story where Marc Bergevin said, we're 100% trading him.
No, there was a report. Someone reported that the Habs are not going to offer him a contract extension.
I read something on the Score app where it said the Canadians are definitely trading Max Pacioretty.
Yes, but Bergevin didn't come out and say it. That's what people are reporting, that's what's going to happen. Bergevin never made a press conference and said we're trading Pacioretty.
Okay, well, it's interesting because then a follow-up story came out saying the Canadians, by admitting or announcing that they're trading him, have painted themselves into a corner, which is exactly what I was going to say.
They never announced that they're trading him. Yes, they are going to trade him. I agree with you 100% he's getting traded.
That's fine.
But they never came out and said we're trading him. But
Okay.
I mean, their actions speak louder than words. I mean, there's so much rumors, it has to be true, you know?
Well,
Of course they painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah. And I mean, also the fact that there were almost 2 trades made at the draft involving
that was
Pacioretty,
it.
and they both fell through.
Yeah.
So,
The
I
question
mean-
now is when. Like, it's not if he's going to get traded, it's when.
Right. But now the
And they're going to
Canadians
do
are
the same thing. Go ahead.
The Canadians are in a terrible bargaining position right
Of course. But this is their standard operating procedure. The Canadians. This is what they do. They trade guys when they're at their lowest value and they get nothing for him. That is standard operating procedure for this organization.
Anyway.
This is what they do.
now. Okay. That's
But
all. I'm done.
it's
I'm done with that
pathetic
topic.
because this is what they do. Because you have a guy who scored 30 goals for 5 years in a row. He has one down year, and then you're going to trade him. So you're going to get nothing for him. You know?
Yeah.
You're not going to get what you could get. At this point, actually, I'd rather them trade him at the trading deadline. Maybe they're going to get more then.
Yeah, this season's done anyway.
But it seems like the relationship between him and the team, it can't be good. No?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not in the locker room. I have no idea what goes on.
But I mean, it seems like he must know he's going to get traded. He can't not know, you know, like with everything going on.
I'm sure he's read all the stories that we've read and even more.
Yeah.
All right.
So before we sign off, I want to remind you that to make sure you never miss an episode of the Skip and Josh podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Google Play, or the podcast app of your choice. As you know, me and Josh love Overcast. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review, please. Please, you can send us an email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. And you can go to skipandjosh.com to get all the links of everything I just said. So my first thing that I'd like to talk about here at the ending is about email. I just want to give a shout out to a listener who emailed us this week. We had a little bit of back and forth on the skipandjoshshow@gmail.com account. We got an email from Len from New York. I don't know if he's from New York City or New York State. He didn't really say. He's a fellow loyal little and seems to like our show. So thank you, Len, for listening.
Yes, we love getting emails, so keep sending them. Thank you. And my final point for this episode is, I don't know if you noticed, I think this is almost 2 weeks ago now, that Phil Mickelson was playing in a golf tournament. I don't know why I have trouble saying Mickelson so much.
Yeah.
And he got another 2-stroke penalty in this tournament.
Yeah.
Which apparently, according to the rules, he deserved the 2-stroke penalty. Except this time, he was the one who told the referees or whatever they're called.
I saw the play.
Yeah, he's the one who told them, by the way, I think I violated a rule and I deserve a 2-stroke penalty.
Well, he moved like some grass, you know, in front of where he was shooting.
Right, I wanted
with
to
his
get
club.
to that. It was like, to me, it seemed insane. All he did was like, there was some really long grass and he stepped on it so that it was lower, as if that's going to help him anyway. Like, why is that a 2-stroke penalty?
He went and told the rules official, by the way, I did this. I'm not sure if I was allowed. And he said, yeah, you weren't allowed. He should have asked them before, which is what he should have done.
Or that shouldn't be a 2-stroke penalty.
Golf is crazy. There's so many weird rules.
Yeah. All right, I'm done.
That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
All right. One more little shout out.
Another one.
I know we're only supposed to do one thing at the end, we said, but I have a very short thing.
Okay.
You heard Paul McCartney's coming to Montreal and Toronto.
I mean, I knew he was coming, but I didn't hear any announcement because I just
Yeah,
happened to...
they announced tickets are going on sale soon, I think, for Montreal and Toronto.
Okay.
So any fans of the show, I urge you to go and see him.
Okay.
I don't think I will be going this time. I've already seen Paul McCartney twice. I know you've seen him once. We were together.
Right.
But if you haven't seen him in concert, go and do it. It'll probably be your last chance.
Right.
And you're gonna see a living legend. So.
And not as good as Paul McCartney, but I was at a Weezer concert last night and it was excellent. And they're not doing any other Canadian dates, but for all our American listeners, go out and see Weezer.
Weezer? I don't even know her.
All right, I'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.